that I was pretty obnoxious back then too, so.
We were so young.
We were.
You're so young. You're so young. Who's there?
The open meeting law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Therefore, please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made and broadcast by Boston City TV, which is a part of the City of Boston Office of Cable Communications. Now I hand it over to Jerry.
Hi, I guess we can call this meeting to order of the monthly Disability Advisory Board Commission meeting. And we'll start with introductions. I'm Jerry Boyd.
And I'm Dusia Lebovskaya.
Patricia Mendez.
Jessica Doonan.
And on the phone we have
This is Barry Hosseini, South Boston.
And Kyle Robidoux from Roxbury.
we have Zari on the
Eugene Glock from Hyde Park.
okay. We have Zari on the phone and Eugene and Kyle.
And I'm Kristen McCosh, the Disability Commissioner.
Great. We're going to forego the approval of the February minutes due to lack of a quorum. So next up we have the absentee voting and census presentation from the Election Commission. Welcome.
Good evening, Kyron Owens. Thank you for having us. And then I'm also joined by Wee.
Good evening, Hui Ngo from the Elections Department. Thank you for having us.
Great.
All right, I'm going to kick it off today's presentation with the absentee voting process. It's I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with the process, but I'll explain it anyways, a little bit further in depth into it. So the absentee voting program, it's available to all voters who meets one of the three main criterias of unable to attend the polls on the day of election. The main one is they're absent from the city from the time the polls open to the time the polls closed. The second circumstance is for members who are disabled, and the third one is if they, third one is if it's for a religious reason. So I'm gonna go in depth with specific to the disabled voter circumstance. We have what we call a permanent absentee list. It's for voters who are with a permanent physical disability that prevent them from attending the polls on election days, where they tend to apply to vote for absentee with us. It's this extra step which they apply with us. It increases accessibility for them because they file a physician's letter with us stating that they're physically disabled and unable to attend the polls on election days. We file those letters into our records where now every year they wouldn't have to physically call us or request an application from us. We'll automatically send an application to the voters themselves, pre-filled out as best as we can all the way down, where all they have to do is just sign the application and mail it back to us. This way, it's one thing where voters easily sometimes they forget to apply for an application with us, where now we take that process away. It's one less process for them. They get the application, sign it, mail it back to us. One less thing they have to worry about for the voting process themselves. And that, hopefully this information can spread a little bit further out to all members of the communities where it's something that they meet the criteria and it's something they can take advantage of for sure. But we still urge everyone to come out and physically vote at the polls. All right, thank you so much. That's pretty much it for the absentee presentation. I'm going to turn the mic over to Kyron Owens for the AutoMark presentation.
Thank you.
So I just want to follow up. we want to continue to encourage voters of Boston to come out to our polling locations on Election Day to cast their vote. And one tool that we have out at all of our polling locations on Election Day is this AutoMark tool here with you, which you see in front of you, which allows voters to independently mark their ballot. And it translates into the 4 different languages required by the city of Boston, which would be English, Spanish, Chinese, and Vietnamese. So it allows people to really be able to have privacy when they're marking the ballot, because what happens is with this AutoMark, once you receive your ballot, you insert that ballot into the AutoMark machine. And with the AutoMark machine, based on the timing marks on the ballot, it will read the ballot and then it will present the ballot on the screen. Now, this AutoMark has the capability to also read the selections to a voter. So if you're wearing the headphones, which we have right here, that allows a voter to be able to listen to the selection. If they have a hearing impairment and they need to still be able to know what they're selecting, you're able to do that. There are directional pads on the side of the AutoMark, which allow people to make their selections if they're uncomfortable with the touch screen feature of the AutoMark. So it really makes it accessible for voters no matter what challenges they may be facing at the time. If you don't mind, I would like to go through a brief demonstration of the AutoMark so that you can see in its completeness how it works. So,
Sure, that would be great.
So right now, the AutoMark is scanning the ballot to be able to present you with which election you're voting for, and then which language option you would like to select when completing this ballot. So for these demonstration purposes, I'll select English. And then the AutoMark will give you instructions on how to use the machine, but you will also be able at the polls to ask our poll workers to also assist you, in which you should have 2 poll workers assisting you if that's needed. So once you've read the instructions, you can basically hit next, which is on the screen at the very bottom, or you would be able to click the forward button on the directional tabs. So we'll hit next. So for this contest, it's asking the best automobile manufacturer. Remember, this is a test ballot just to give you the experience. So it presents the choices of BMW, Mercedes, General Motors, Honda, Ferrari, Jaguar, just to name a few. And if you wanted to, there is a section for write-in entries as well. For this, I'll just select Mercedes using the touch screen feature, and I'm gonna hit next. So now I've just voted on my first contest using this AutoMark machine. Now it will bring me to the next contest featured on that ballot. In this demonstration, it's going to say best vocal artist, and it's going to say vote for not more than 2 people. So that means that I have the ability to vote for up to 2 people for this specific contest. So some that we have here are Frank Sinatra, Elvis, Janis Joplin, Buddy Holliday, and Barry White. And we also have the selection for 2 write-in candidates. So for this one, I'll select Janis Joplin, and then I'll say I want to do a write-in, right? And what happens is when you get the write-in screen, it pops up with a keyboard that you would technically see like on a cell phone or something like that. It's very similar to that, in which you can input the person's name. So I'll put, let me see, Patti LaBelle. Just for example, I'll just put Patti, but that's what it stands for. And then it's gonna ask me okay, or I can cancel that writing decision. I know that I wanna go with this decision, so I'm gonna hit okay. And now you see here that I have 2 selections, and I can also go next. The next contest is asking me which ice cream flavor I like, so it gives me chocolate, coffee, vanilla, and it also gives me the write-in. Now, let's say I was having trouble seeing this display. I have the option to zoom in, which will make the text a lot bigger for me to be able to be more able to easily read this. I can also alter the contrast on the screen. So if the white background with the black text isn't really working for me, I can hit the high contrast and it will now give me a black background with white writing. So I know that that has come in handy for individuals who may have a vision impairment to be able to make their selection. So for this, I'm going to leave it blank. I'm not going to select anything on this contest. I'm going to hit next. Now, what happens is the AutoMark will tell me, it will give me a notification that I've undervoted on this contest. So it gives me the chance to either return to the contest to now select a ice cream flavor which I like, right? Or I can continue basically saying, no, I did this purposefully and I'd like to continue. So I actually got, are you all in favor of a 3-day weekend?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so I'm gonna hit yes for this contest.
Is that all? Is that my only choice?
So we'll hit next. It also says the next contest would be, should pay increase be issued every 6 months rather than yearly?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I
More-
thought we might get some yeses.
More, please.
So now, we've answered all of the contests, and now what the AutoMark is going to do is it's going to give us a review of all of the selections we've made. So here I can see that for my best automobile manufacturer, I selected Mercedes. I can see that I'm in favor of a 3-day weekend. I can see that for the vocal artist, I have a write-in for Patty. I have also selected Janice as one of the people who was actually on the ballot. We've said yes to increasing pay. I apologize. And it allows you to scroll down to the contest too. So where it says more, you click. And then as I scroll down, I see that for the best ice cream flavor, I did not select an option. So it says no selection made, and it puts it in red. So that way you can be aware of that and you'll be more attentive to that, right? And what I can actually do is if I wanted to, I can click on the selection and it will take me back to that selection so I can actually change it if I've been so moved to do so, if I've had a change of heart and I'm like, you know what, actually I really do like chocolate ice cream. So now I'm gonna select that, I'm gonna hit next, it brings me right back to the summary, and now I feel comfortable with all of my responses, I'm going to hit next. Now it says to mark the ballot, press the button, and your ballot will be marked in accordance with your selections and returned to you for deposit into the tabulated ballot box. So I hit mark ballot, or I would hit select, and then the machine does its magic. Just give it a brief moment. While it's calculating, I just want to go over some other features that the AutoMark has. It does allow somebody who's listening to the machine as it's making, as it's reading off the selections. You can actually speed up the tempo at which the automated voice is talking to you. You can slow it down, you can turn up the volume, you can ask it to repeat. And these are all functions that you see right here on this side panel, and you can also find on the screen. So now I have my ballot, it's been marked, and I'm prepared to now go past this ballot and check out. So this is how, at the polls, that we've made voting accessible, and for people to be able to independently be able to mark their ballot at the polling location. I will submit this to the advisory board so where you guys can look at it. And I'd like to open up the floor for any questions you may have, whether it's in regards to the absentee process or the AutoMark voting machine.
I have a question. Is there staff trained at the poll sites to help assist people with the AutoMark?
Yes. So we roughly hold about 40 or 50 trainings every election cycle, and the AutoMark is one of the components that we go over very thoroughly. We even give times for our poll workers to actually test out the machine and gain comfortability with it.
And also, can people control the volume of the audio voice?
Yes.
Great.
I've used the machine myself for the last couple of elections that I've participated in, and the first time that I did it, I was going to a new polling place, and in fact, I wasn't going to use it, but the staff there was so eager to see the machine used. They were like, "Come use it, come use it, come use it." So I said, "All right, I'll try it," and it really was a benefit to me. And now that I know about the high contrast feature, I know people with visual disabilities that I can make sure they try to take advantage of that feature as well. The one thing that I haven't noticed is does every machine come with the speakers?
Yes, so
Okay.
that's part of the package. I'd also like to add, while I'm answering that question, that there also is an insert for anyone who has a sip puff tube, and that is also another way in which you can help to make selections
With
as
the
well.
sip-
So
oh,
I'd like
great.
to just add that in there.
So if I wanted the speakers, I'd just say to the polling workers that I need the speakers too, if they're not readily apparent there.
Yes.
Great, thanks. Any other questions from either person or anyone on the phone?
No questions.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Zari.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
It's a little soft, but
So my question is, do you do training in hospitals and in public areas for people who may not be able to attend the training? Like you guys do training outside?
Was that training poll workers, Zari? Is that your question?
And can they, like I'm thinking of doing something at the hospital for patients and employees with disabilities. I'm just wondering if these guys would be willing to come to the site to kind of review what they're doing now.
so it's for voters who have been hospitalized for a while. Is that
Yeah.
your question? Yeah.
I guess in general, can people vote off-site with this machine, or do they have to go to the polling location?
I guess I could chime in on that. If they're off-site in a healthcare facility, the process for them to vote, they can vote through the facility, but it's going to be through the absentee voting program process itself. There's no access at the healthcare facilities for these machines to be
There's
used.
no polling places at the healthcare facilities.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ducia.
Yes, here's Ducia again. I have a question. Actually, Zahari already asked my second question. So my other question would be regarding the absentee ballots. So do you, you probably already mentioned it, but do you send letters to people who at home, or is it or do they go on the website, and what does this application look like? Do they have to cross off they're disabled, or what? Can you maybe clarify the process for
What's
that?
the process? Yeah.
Okay, so the process with just to apply for an absentee ballot itself, they could use one of the pre-generated application forms that the state has made up, or technically they could just write a letter of intent that they wish to vote for absentee. It's just a letter with their name, their address on it, and they wish to receive an absentee ballot, and we take that as a form of request for absentee themselves. And if you're asking specifically for to be part of the permanent list of absentee voting, same thing. We generally need the written request itself that they wish to receive an absentee ballot, and as long as you file a physician's letter with that application, we keep that on record, and that's how you get beyond the permanent absentee list.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, to follow up on that question, do you mind saying for the record the phone number or the website where a person can write a request?
Okay. Right, so you can go right to our website. It's at boston.gov/absentee. And then you can also call our office to request an application form. It's at 617-635-3767.
Thank you. And another question, are there instructions available in order for somebody to prepare ahead of time of using the machine, the AutoMark?
As for the AutoMark, if members of the public wanted to test this out, we would just ask that you contact our office, and then we can schedule a time for you to come down, and we can make the AutoMark available for individuals to be able to test it out and become familiar with it before Election Day. Yeah.
So it would be like by appointment to practice. Okay.
Just to make sure we can have it set up, and that because we do keep most of the machines off-site for testing and maintenance purposes. So we just want to make sure that we have it on site and available for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
One quick thing, Chiron. I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit briefly. We've got some new board members within the last couple months, so I'm wondering if you could talk briefly about the partnership that our offices did last year in regards to the video that Jerry starred in.
I'm glad. I'm glad you brought that up, because I wasn't going to leave without talking about that. Definitely want to thank the Disability Commission on behalf of the Election Department, on behalf of my commissioner, Dion Irish, for your continued partnership and support with, making sure that individuals in the city of Boston are aware of elections, that they're aware of all of the accessibility that we have in regards to our polling locations. So last year, we actually teamed up to do an accessibility training video, which we use with our poll workers in our trainings, in our 2-hour mandatory trainings with them, to really teach them on how to better service persons with disabilities when they're entering the polling location. So that includes going over the AutoMark, also going over how to greet somebody, how to offer assistance, how not to assume that somebody necessarily needs you or needs your help, or let them ask for it. If somebody needs assistance, they will be vocal about it. And you just want to be as supportive as possible in the process, remembering that if you have an assistant, that you are free to bring any assistant of your choosing. There is no law that says you're required to bring a certain person. It's really anyone of your choosing. If you have poll workers that are assisting you, making sure that you have at least 2 poll workers assisting you, and that's something that we always train our poll workers on, to make sure that they cover themselves. But it's also in the best interest of the voter, so that way, they're sure that nobody is going to try to influence them, and they're getting the correct information. We also going over in that training video service animals, and how people are allowed to bring their service animals in with them to the polls, and they should never be shunned away for that. So just really being accepting of everyone. Boston is a very diverse city, made up of a lot of different demographics of people, and we just want to continue to remind our poll workers of that and ensure that we're providing the best service to voters on Election Day as possible.
Can I just follow up with, just give a little notice that we also have partnered with the Elections Commission on an event every fall, It's a civic engagement event for people with disabilities, and we have it in usually September or October. And we open up the 5th floor of City Hall for people to come in and meet their city councilor, speak with the elections department, try out the AutoMark, register to vote, learn how to testify at a city council hearing. So it's a great day where people who haven't been involved in their local government can come out and learn all about these things. So we don't have our date yet for this year, but we'll be announcing it soon. And it's the civic engagement event. We've had it a few years, and we get over 100 people every year. So we welcome everybody to come out and see how we can help you make it easier for the voting process.
Definitely, and thank you.
Caroline, just one other question from me as well. What's the next election cycle where folks will be encouraged to vote and to use the machines?
Well, we have an eventful year this year. So we're going to actually be kicking off our elections with a special state primary in the 1st Suffolk Senatorial District, which was formerly held by Linda Dorsina Forey. So we have the special state primary on April 3rd. Polling locations will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. I would like to just add that is not a citywide election. It only impacts about 60 to 70 precincts in the city. And they will consist of South Boston, Dorchester, and Mattapan predominantly. We'll have the final election for that 1st Suffolk Senatorial seat on May 1st, so that will determine who's going to actually take the seat. Now, later in the year, we have our state elections, so we have the state primary, which will be September 4th. Once again, I remind you that the polling locations will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you plan on voting absentee, we ask that you submit your application or your letter of intent sooner rather than later to allow for the process of mailing the ballot to you and then you being able to mail it back. So we always ask that people just be very conscientious of the time. And then following that, we'll have early voting coming back around for these state elections. That will be October 22nd through November 2nd. And then we'll have the state election on November 6th, okay? And the absentee deadline for that is November 5th at 12 p.m. noon. So the absentee deadline for any election is always the day before at 12 p.m. noon, and that's for in-person absentee voting as well as applying for your application.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the floor, from the public? Can you go up to the podium? Just state your name and where you're from, please, if you can.
Elizabeth Dean Clower, Boston Back Bay. Thank you for the presentation, and I think that's important that the Disability Commission has teamed up the way they have. Just in case someone, myself, but just in general, with anything that involves electronics and could malfunction, could you just briefly address how that's handled if there is a problem with the machine, or is this different from other kinds of electronic voting where people have heard about hacking, that kind of thing?
No, thank you for your question, and I appreciate you for bringing that up. So in Boston, we don't face the same type of hacking concerns because our machines are a little bit older. However, when a machine breaks down, we do have technicians who are mobile throughout the city who can come and address that problem fairly quickly. So oftentimes, if there's a problem like that, there's someone in the area patrolling who can get there pretty quickly to be able to resolve those types of problems.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd just like to add, for all election information, you can always go to boston.gov/elections. That's boston.gov/elections for all election-related information. That includes state and city results as far as the elections are concerned, how to vote absentee, how to add your name to the annual census, which I encourage everyone to respond. You should have received the mailing by now. We send out We send that out to all households in the city of Boston, and that's to track residents aged 17 years of age and older, to maintain an accurate voting list in the city of Boston, and to keep your voter status active. It also helps the city with distributing resources, so it's important that you fill that out. And thank you again to the Disability Commission, to the advisory board for having myself and we, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Thank you. And next up, we have a presentation on the Dudley Square project from Pat, and forgive me for the last name, Hoy, from the Boston Transportation Department, and Jennifer Conley from WSP.
Good evening. Pat Hoey had a conflict and wasn't able to make it.
Okay.
And so hopefully I will be able to, as soon as my computer wakes up, be able to show you. I'm Jennifer Conley. I'm from WSP. We are the designers on the Dudley Square Improvement Project. It is a roadway improvement project that, as I said, I'm really hoping, here we go. It'll be 1 second. It's a roadway improvement project that is looking at a few things. One, attempting to ensure that vehicles can be accommodated, but two, and perhaps more importantly and more the focus of the project, is that these are done through a complete streets approach. So that in cases right now where we have some narrow sidewalks and we have long crossing distances and no bicycle accommodations, all of those things will be incorporated into the design plans. To give you a little bit of background, this project was started a few years ago and then had been put on hold for a while, and it's just getting going again. So at this point, we don't have, kind of the plans very far along. But to explain to you what the project entails, if you can see the screen, you can see running from left to right across kind of the bottom of the screen is Dudley Street. And the left-hand side is Washington, and the right-hand side is Warren. And it's kind of the triangle between those things that includes Dudley Station. And then it's also including a couple of the closely spaced intersections to the east and west. So it's going to extend over to where Shawmut and MLK Boulevard intersect to the west. And on the east side, it's going to extend over to where Dudley and Harrison Avenue meet. So that kind of gives you an overview of what the extents of the project are. As I said, really the focus on a number of these areas in the alternative that we're developing now is really on improving the pedestrian experience. It's really looking at how to use some of that wide right-of-way that is available along Dudley Street in particular to provide wider sidewalks and to provide shorter crossing distances. I'm just going to go to the second slide, which I just kind of, if I can, there we go. Let's see, oh, it's not coming up over there. Why would that? It's switched on my screen, but not there. Should I try the remote? What that? Right. Let me see. I apologize.
That's okay. Gremlins again.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's still on that slide, and we'll switch to this. Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you for your help. What I show here, and it's hard because, again, it's an engineered drawing, and it's a little difficult to see. But what I want to call attention to is this is a zoomed-in version of the intersection of Dudley Street at Warren Street. Currently, if we think of Dudley, if folks in the audience are familiar with Dudley Street, it is a very wide roadway. And at Warren Street, what happens is vehicles that are traveling eastbound have what is effectively a free right turn, so are always moving. So if a pedestrian wants to cross that traffic, it doesn't fully come to a stop. One of the things that's happening in this concept, and it might be a little bit difficult to see, I can't take the mic with me to the screen. I'll come right back. Currently, these red lines are where the existing curb lines are, and these are the size of the sidewalks. And as you can tell, we're kind of pulling those out to make the crossing distance shorter.
If you could just repeat all of that into the mic, nothing gets captured that way. Thank you.
What I just pointed out is on the screen currently, there are two, I put two kind of red lines that outline the points where if you are a pedestrian that wants to cross Dudley currently, where you start and where you finish, and just how long of a crossing distance that is. And then I illustrated in the proposed condition how much shorter that crossing distance is going to be by providing a wider sidewalk, bumping out even a little further right at the intersections, and really taking that eastbound right turn traffic and bringing it under traffic signal control, so that full approach, that full crossing will be completely controlled in the future. And that's just an example at one of the locations. What we're really trying to do is at every location make sure the pedestrian has an improved experience. And as I mentioned also, we're providing some bicycle accommodation and making other improvements to accommodate vehicles as well. One of the things we encounter at these locations is, again, big crossing distance, but also big distances for vehicles to travel. The closer in, the tighter an intersection is, the easier it is to make that traffic signal work more efficiently for everyone. So we're really trying to, as I said, improve the experience for all users at these intersections as a part of this project. And I just brought this up as a sample location, but similar improvements are planned at each of the other intersections. As an aside, as a part of development of this project, another improvement that the MBTA is contemplating is, with some of the modifications to the street circulation, they're going to be able to create a more efficient bus routing. Currently, buses travel eastbound on Dudley, take a left-hand turn onto Warren, go up into the station, and exit by taking another left out onto Washington and another left out onto Dudley. Taking that many left turns causes an awful lot of delay and really makes sometimes the bus schedule, they get really kind of caught up in traffic. Sure. The modified circulation that's proposed is using Roxbury Street. So when you're on MLK heading eastbound, you'll be able to take a left onto Roxbury Street and head directly east into the station itself. You will not have to continue on and kind of do the double loop to take all lefts into the site. Instead, you'll take it on to Roxbury, and you'll follow Roxbury straight into the station and exit out the east end of the station and follow that right over to Harrison. And that is something that still is being worked out with the MBTA. They like the idea, though. As you might imagine, anything that helps the buses run a little better on time is a good thing. It'll be a little more efficient. It will reduce pollution. It really has a lot of advantages. So I just wanted to kind of give that brief overview. I'm happy to answer any questions about other specific aspects of the project.
Yes, I have a question. So you said the project, was delayed for a while and it's just getting going again, or like what? So what is the? Do you have any sort of time frame as to when you'll be completed, or how long the project will go for?
I have some rough information I can share with you. One of the first things that I do know is the Dudley Library is being redone, and that project has its grand opening. I believe it's in September of 2019. And so as a result, we're on an accelerated schedule because they want the construction at this corner to be complete by then. So the project's construction will start just prior to that. This will be kind of the first area it's targeted to hit. And then the construction will continue, obviously. It will last through probably the following summer throughout the rest of the project. But that gives you kind of an idea of what we're aiming for at this point.
Great. Patricia?
Yes, hi. Can you talk a little bit about signal upgrades and accessible signals?
Certainly, I can comment. One of the things that is really important at any location that we've incorporated at this location, and really is part of a complete street approach now, is the leading pedestrian interval, which is something that will assist pedestrians in having a safety to be able to start crossing before traffic gets a green light at locations where pedestrians and traffic are going at the same time. As far as accessible accessible traffic signal equipment for pedestrian crossing. I don't have any of the specifics because at this point we're just in the conceptual stage, but I think as we get to the point where we begin to really think about the detailed equipment that will be incorporated, which would probably be for our next submittal, we obviously would be getting a little bit more input as to what kind of the cutting edge and what needs to be incorporated at that time.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Either in person or on the phone?
No questions for me.
None for me.
Hearing none, is there any from the public? All right, hearing none, thank you very much.
Great, thank you for your time.
Next up is Alex from Pierce Park Sailing Center.
We're just going to take one moment, Jerry, just for a couple technical things. We're going to move out the AutoMark machine so we don't have to keep these gentlemen all evening.
Yeah,
and we're going to hook up another computer, so just give us a brief moment.
Not a problem. Sorry to usher everybody in and out. Thanks again, gentlemen. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay. Thank you all very much for having me. My name is Alex DeFranzo. I'm the Executive Director of Pierce Park Sailing Center in East Boston. And I just wanted to share some information about our programs as a means of more outreach to specifically residents of the city of Boston, see if they have interest in enrolling either in our youth programs for children or adaptive programs for adults. So Pierce Park Sailing Center is located in Pierce Park in East Boston, Massachusetts. It's a few minutes away from the Maverick stop on the Blue Line. And we have been providing community sailing lessons since 1998. So this is our 20th year in operation. The dock was constructed by Massport in the mid-90s. And at the time it was built, it was the only dock in Boston Harbor that is ADA compliant at all points in the tide cycle. So the harbor has a big tide cycle. It ranges from 10 to, in the last few storms, as much as 15 feet from low tide to high tide, which makes the gangways or the ramps that go down to the dock sometimes very difficult to access. But our facility is completely accessible at all different levels of tide because of the dual ramp system that we have. So we have some unique programs to offer to the community. We provide services for youth starting at age 6 years old. We also work kind of as a community access point to Boston Harbor and the Harbor Islands for the community at large. And then we have adaptive programs for children and adults with physical and cognitive disabilities. Our youth program is by far our largest. Last year we served 1,087 youth total in 2017. The program's completely inclusive across really all spectrums. So if a family has financial need, they're able to attend the program for free. And then 303, so about a third of the total youth that we serve typically in any given year, identify either a physical or cognitive disability during enrollment. The vast majority of our youth programming happens in July and August. We have about 600 kids through just in those 2 months. And the majority of them come from East Boston, but we draw kids from all across the city. And the access is open to kids all across the city. The program is inclusive, so it's not like there are separate boats or anything. Everyone's just together with their same age peers. And the images that you can see on the right side of the screen, the top one is kids in a sailboat as part of our Harbor Explorers program. Then we have kids pulling some seaweed at low tide and learning about the different species of seaweed that live in the harbor. And someone rigging one of the boats, getting a sail set up. We run programming throughout the course of the year as well. So we have our major programs in the summer, which include Harbor Explorers, Science of Sailing, and Future Leaders. But we also do sailing after school in the spring and fall. The East Boston High School sailing team operates out of Pierce Park. And then in the winter, we operate programs in public schools in East Boston, where we teach about ocean science. Our Harbor Explorers program we do in partnership with Save the Harbor, Save the Bay, and it's for kids that are age 6 to 9 years old. So for part of the day, it's a full day program from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Every kid gets a free lunch halfway through the day. But for half of the day, they catch different species in the harbor. So there are some photos on the slide. You can see kids that have caught a starfish, a skate. We catch all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of things living in Boston Harbor now, which is really nice. At low tide, we go around the dock and get all kinds of cool things that weren't there 30 years ago. So it's a lot of stuff's coming back. The other half of the day, when they're not catching animals and learning about the different species in the harbor, they go sailing or kayaking. And then for kids that are 10 and up, we have a Science of Sailing program. In that program, they go sailing all day. And then on Fridays during the summer, we go to one of the Boston Harbor Islands. So we have a flotilla of about 14 sailboats. They chart a course to one of the islands in the harbor. All of them sail out to it. We drop anchor and bring everyone ashore, and they get to learn about the harbor. And then Ocean Science After School is a wintertime program that we run in East Boston where students learn about marine science. The high school sailing team also is a newer program at Pierce Park Sailing Center. We have kids that come down from East Boston High. They started practice actually last week, so they're out in the cold, but they wear dry suits. And they race in the Massachusetts Bay League, which is like varsity high school sailing for students. That's their schedule for this year. For families interested in enrolling in our summer programs, we do enrollment based on geographic region. So East Boston residents are currently able to enroll in Sorry, I'm trying to remove a pop-up ad for McAfee. Okay, there it goes. All other residents of the city of Boston and residents of Chelsea, Revere, and Winthrop can start enrolling April 1st, and then anyone else can register May 1st. The enrollment is online at piersparksailing.org or in person. We're located at 95 Marginal Street in East Boston. Our adaptive programs for adults utilize a variety of different types of equipment. We have about 20 different seats that we use for our boats. The primary boat we use for instruction is a 23-foot sonar keel boat, which is unique because you can fit all kinds of different stuff in it and it's very stable. So you don't capsize in this boat. It will never tip over or take on water. And we put different chairs in for the different levels of physical mobility that our sailors have. They range from really just some torso support where someone might use a glove to hold onto the tiller to be able to steer, to a chair that provides full upper body support, which you would use either with our tractor steering system, which is where you use both hands to be able to steer the boat, or our sip and puff system, which is what's pictured on this slide, where you use a straw. And when you sip in the straw, the boat turns to starboard, and when you puff in the straw, the boat turns to port. There's a pneumatic arm that connects to the tiller. So anybody of any level of physical ability is able to skipper the boat. That's what we want, is for it to be completely accessible across all the different things that you might do. We also have different benches that you could use if you don't want to steer, but you would like to man the jib, which is the little sail on the front of the boat that help you transfer from one side to the other while you're underway. The way that most of our adaptive programming works is through partnerships with other organizations that serve people with disabilities. So we have a program with the Spalding Hospital where we go to their dock in Charlestown every other week, where people can come out and sail. We do partnerships with a lot of schools and organizations that already have good outreach into the community. And then on Fridays in the springtime, we do a program called Heal on the Water for disabled veterans that come primarily from the Bedford VA, but it's really open. And we provide lessons over the course of May and June. And then hopefully also we're looking to do programming in the fall in September and October as well. And then we have scholarships where people can come through our Learn to Sail program, which is a 4-day course, and they become certified as a level 1 U.S. sailor. So you can use that to demonstrate that you know how to sail a keelboat of up to about 35 feet in length. That course is 21 hours, and you can come down and use our sonar fleet anytime from May 1st to October 31st with up to 6 other people on the boat. We also do free sailing days throughout the course of the year. So if you want to really just come down and give it a try and see if it's something that you like or might be interested in, our first event this year will be on April 28th, which is our opening day. We expect to give about 300 people time out on the water to try out sailing. And then we also will do events for Eastie Week, ICA Play Date. The ICA is expanding into East Boston, and Eastie Pride Day. The dates for those aren't set yet, but we'll have free sailing at each of those events as well. So that's kind of an overview of our different programs. Wanted to come out to let people know that we're there, and we would love for you to come down and learn to sail with us.
Great. Any questions from the commission?
Can I ask, I know you gave a lot of information, but I'm not really clear. What months are you open?
To sail on the sonar keelboats, which is the vast majority of our adaptive programming, it's May 1st through October 31st.
And do you usually get a lot of good weather, or are there a lot of days that people can't go out?
Usually the only reason people can't go out is if the wind is more than 30 miles per hour or there's lightning.
Okay.
The boats that we have, the mainsail is able to reef, so it gets smaller in size at 2 different points. So you can really reduce the power if it's very windy. And people go out in all kinds of weather. You can go in the rain and the cold, as long as you don't mind it.
And if people leave their wheelchairs behind, is there a place to leave them?
Yeah, you leave
Just
them on the
thinking
dock.
practically.
Yeah. We have a couple of different ways to get on the boat. We have Hoyer mounts for a couple different Hoyer lifts that we have on the dock, and then we also have a transfer bench, which you basically scoot into the boat from the dock. The dock and the boats are flush when the boat is on the dock, so it's a fairly straightforward transfer, but you leave your chair on the dock when you're out.
Are there any boats that someone could go on in a wheelchair?
We've never done that before,
No? Okay.
but we like to get creative, so
Yeah,
probably it's possible.
just thinking. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Jerry. I've used the program before. I've sailed with you guys years and years ago. It was a lot of fun. Just in general question though, if somebody wanted to come and learn about the sailing, do you have folks that they can go out with, or do they have to come with a PCA or a family member, somebody to help them, or how does that work?
We call it a companion sailor program. So some folks volunteer a certain amount of hours over the course of the year, and that becomes the way that they get their membership. So you can go online and basically match up if you want somebody else to go out with, to join you when you go sailing. I forgot to mention too, we have equipment that can be used for someone with low vision or vision impairment, where you wear a cuff that gives you sensory input on your arm for where you're at. We typically only do that for racing. And then we also have beacons that make noise that you can use for racing.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ducia.
Yes, here's Ducia. Sorry. Ducia, thank you for just mentioning, you just mentioned about people with visual impairments. And I just wanted to follow up on that. I know there I personally love sailing, so I appreciate this information, and I'm wondering, like people with visual impairments or any other impairments, can they just show up and just be part of the program that you have, or do they have to bring any medical paper or anything? I mean, they have like some people don't. I mean, sorry. Like there's some people who you don't really know that they have visual impairment unless they tell you. So I was wondering, do you need to see any paperwork, or is just everybody welcome?
It depends on how they're getting involved in the program. If it's a child in the youth program, they do not need to bring any paperwork that demonstrates. They just self-identify during the enrollment process. If it is someone that's interested in getting one of the scholarships for a free membership to be able to sail, then they would need to fill out an application and provide information. So it depends on how you come down to the sailing center. If someone's seeing this and really just interested in getting more information, the best way would be to reach out to us. Our phone number is 617-561-6677, and our email is info@piersparksailing.org.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
I was going to ask you for the contact, but I just want to say thank you for coming and let us know of this great information. I look forward to bringing my children.
Good. Thank
Any
you.
questions from those of us on the phone?
No, I'm all set.
And opening it up to the public. Hearing none. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you all very much.
And next, I don't think we have an interim chair's report. So the next will be the commissioner's report.
Thank you, Jerry. Good evening, everybody. I will just keep this very brief, but I wanted to first let you know that we, despite the wintry weather this month, we have kicked off our full schedule of community events for 2018. Our first event that we partner with is happening this week. It's called the Real Abilities Film Festival. That's REEL, Real Abilities. And the Real Abilities Film Festival features films by and about people with disabilities. They show films all over Boston, and they'll be going through the end of this week. I think they wrap up Thursday, but it's part of a national initiative that features these films. Some of them are documentaries, some of them are fiction, and they're really, they're great, and I just can't say enough about it. So if you're interested, they're all free. Just go to their website. It's realabilities.org, and it's 2 E's in Real Abilities. We have our first event that we're participating in running tomorrow. It's a summit on accessible transportation. It's happening at the Boston Public Library in Copley Square. And this event is going to give people with disabilities a chance to talk about barriers that they still face in transportation, whether it's on the MBTA, if it's sidewalks, if it's bicycles, any type of transportation that people use, we want to hear about. We want to know what works and what doesn't work. It's going to be a chance for people to talk about things that they can't access and also tell us things that are working well and that we should do more of. So the summit is tomorrow from 2 to 4 at the Boston Public Library in Copley, and we encourage everybody who's interested to please come out and participate. Another big initiative that we have happening this year, this is hopefully a really big initiative that's very exciting. It's with a company called Aira, that's AIRA. And Aira is a technology company that matches people who are blind with a live sighted guide, either through a pair of glasses or through a smartphone. So you either wear glasses or you hold your phone up facing frontwards, and you're connected with a guide who can tell you, for instance, they could help you read this piece of paper that's in front of you, or they can help you navigate your way down a street. It's takes place all throughout the country. This technology is available, but they're going to have free service in Boston for the marathon weekend and along the marathon route. So we hope to publicize that and have people download their app, which is free, and people can log in all weekend and make access of a sighted guide. Do we have a website for more information on that? Do you happen to know it? Jessica can look that up while we're talking. So a few other things we have happening also. Patricia is giving a training on how to read variance hearings for the AAB. That's coming up in May. And our community forum, which is our annual listening event for people with disabilities, is going to be May 23rd, also at the Copley Library. and that will be from 2 to 4 as well. ADA Day will be on July 24th on City Hall Plaza from 12 to 2. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we'll have our community engagement and event in September, and we'll get back to you with a date on that. A few other exciting things our office is working on. We're working with the city's Human Resources Department on a hiring toolkit to hopefully start to be able to identify and track numbers of people with disabilities who apply for jobs with the city, and also how many people are hired. And this is really important because it gives us goals that we can strive for to say, okay, only 1% of the city's workforce has a disability. We want to strive to hire 10% and make our city workforce representative of people in the city, whether it's ethnicity, disability, language. So we really want to try to elevate disability and make that a representative group working for the city. So that's underway. We're working hard on that. We are also working on putting out a map of accessible parking spaces in the city, not so much in the residential areas, but in the parking spaces downtown and in commercial areas. So people with disabilities can download it on their phone, and when you're driving around, you can hopefully find an accessible parking space. We have a disability history project that we're working on in conjunction with the Disability History Museum. That's an online museum, and we're hoping to come up with a project that will eventually lead to a walking tour in Boston of some historic sites where significant things happened related to people with disabilities. One area we're looking at is the Perkins School for the Blind, which started in Boston, and a work site next to it where people would go for vocational training, which eventually became the Mass Association for the Blind or the Mass Commission for the Blind. I'm not sure which one, but we're in the process of working on that. We also have trainings that we're doing for offices in City Hall. I'm giving a training to the Health and Human Services Cabinet this week on interacting with people with disabilities and involving them in programming. So we hope to get more trainings out within City Hall and to the community this year, and we're working on developing those. And my last update is about advisory board seats. We are currently working with the mayor to appoint 5 new board members, and right now we're running into some logistical challenges as far as space. We'll have a big group of 13 people with disabilities, so we have to look for a space that will fit us all and our mobility devices. So we hope to have this figured out in the next few weeks, and I will keep you posted. Hopefully in our April meeting, we can welcome people on board and then start with elections of an actual chairperson. But I appreciate you filling in, Jerry.
Not a problem.
And Carl Richardson has done a great job filling in as well. So that is my report, and I'm happy to take questions if anybody has any.
All that information will be is on the website or whatever, Kristen, if we couldn't get it down tonight.
Yep. And we also, these broadcasts will be on YouTube, so you can always tune in and just listen to my spiel again.
Sure.
Commissioner, I just wanted to give you an update. So the website for IRA is aira.io. So that website right there will give you information about the glasses and kind of the program and the company itself. We'll be sending out more info when we have it related specifically to the marathon and the One Boston Day event when that's all decided, but it will be a free it'll be an opportunity to use the app for free. You won't be provided glasses or anything, but you'll be able to download the app and use IRA as a guest, and we'll be giving out more information on that shortly.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from other members of the board here? Or any questions from those of us on the phone? Hearing none. Any questions from the public? Hearing none. I get the next item on the agenda would be Patricia Mendez with an architectural access update.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patricia Mendez. I'm the architectural access specialist. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we did this month. We met with the proponents for a new development in West Roxbury. This is a residential development, and it's going to be 29 individual homes. They're going under review for Article 80, which is large project review, because they're including construction for the whole street, sidewalks, as well as the 29 homes. As part of that, one of the homes is going to be part of the inclusionary program, IDP, and that one of them is going to be affordable, and also the same unit is going to be accessible. The next item is we met with the Housing and Aging in Place initiative for with the Elderly Commission, and we're partnering in coming up with new guidelines that are going to be part of the BPDA process review, and we're going to put together our guidelines and their guidelines and try to make a list of usable resources for developers. The next item is, again, to repeat the plan for training in May 18 for commissions for different municipalities around Boston. We're putting the final touches on the flyer for the training, and I will be sending out invitations this week. And with that, that's it for me.
Great. Any questions from those of us here on the board? No. Any questions on the phone? Hearing none. Any questions from the public? Hearing none, I guess we're down to old business. Is there any old business that we're aware of? I didn't think so. Any new business? Any new action items? And are there any questions or concerns from the public, either on anything that we've talked about or any new questions that you'd like to bring up? Hearing none, I guess we could call a motion to adjourn. Anybody move to adjourn? Second. Great. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.